The Redefined podcast is part of the Winmate Give podcast network.
The real estate pirate himself, Nick Shivers out of Portland, Oregon, is our guest for today. He is one of my dearest friends. He's one of the weirdest guys I know, and he marches to a drum that nobody else can even hear. He's simply doing his own thing and doing it on an exceedingly high level. Gang, you're listening to the Redefined podcast. I'm your host, Erik Hatch, and my gosh, I love this man. Nick Shivers, how are you, brother?
You weren't going to tell them about how they almost stuck me in a mental institution. It's that, driving to a different drummer, man.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like you hear a song. I don't hear any music playing, but nonetheless, it's great. Nick, you have been an out of the box guy most of your life, and now you are running a hell of a real estate business. Give us a scope of the mountain you're on right now, because I know it hasn't been an easy climb to get here.
Sure. I mean, just kind of given an idea of what we're looking at. So through August, I went and looked. We're down probably about 32%. We're at 112 mil in volume, about 3.3 million in GCI. The good news is we're still at about 70% of all those transactions are listings. We're still being very successful on the investment side, as well as, Erik, as we talked about it probably like 7 years ago, I was letting you know, people do want convenience and they're willing to give up a lot of money. And, you were like, really? And because I was in the same boat, I'm like, why would someone leave money on the table just because you could close it in a week? And I think more and more agents in this new market need to open their eyes and their ears and listen to people, what they want to do, so they can solve problems. Because as we know, most agents that are in the business have only been around during the good times, and it's becoming very challenging to be a real estate agent.
But I mean, you've seen some crap as an old man, right?
Oh yeah.
And gang, you need to understand this. If I were to say, like, I have a brother in this industry, it's Nick Shivers. And so he is my much more seasoned older brother. He is 9 or 10 years my elder. He has been my inspiration for my bald head and my beautiful smile my entire life. So Nick, you've seen some iterations of this industry, and somehow you guys are still coming out on top right now. And it's been your creativity and your approach to offer options to sellers instead of just the one size fits all. It's been your surge during COVID to become a listing focused team when almost everybody else just tried to gobble up buyers. You've pivoted mightily. What pivot do you think people need to make right now?
Wow, that's a great question. I think they have to evolve their skill set. Okay. I think there are going to be in the future, you have to be creative on how to get a home sold. So creative in seller financing, making sure that you're doing it appropriately so you can protect the seller. Okay, because I can barely turn on a computer, but the TikTok stars, it's simple. Just do an owner carry, and then that person that buys it sells it to somebody else. And a seller, if they're not advised appropriately, could get themselves into some big trouble. But as an agent, a fiduciary, you better understand all those options of creative seller financing, because there are going to be times where someone needs to sell. There's always going to be sellers that they need to sell, but maybe the market's pretty sticky. But with a seller financing option in the bag, you can get that property sold. I mean, I did a couple myself recently. I'm trying to vacate out of the Multnomah County market in my area and get diversified in some of the, Texas and Florida and stuff like that. So I've been doing some seller carry financing. But agents need to be skilled in that avenue, not just the real estate agent side, but you better understand investor side, because you're going to be competing against a lot of those people as well, Erik.
Yeah, good thoughts. I want to summarize and put a button on it before we get to the meat of all this. Nick, you've been running a real estate team for 15 or 20 years, right?
Yeah. I know. I look so young for that.
Oh, I know. But real estate teams, you were at the inception and the birth of and the climbing of, and now you have a machine that prints you a lot of great cash, right? You're highly profitable. You have talent around you. You just got back from a 3-week vacation, and you took a 3-week trip earlier this summer. Like, you've had some time on your hands, which for me is the real sign of wealth. But there's one other piece of wealth that I want to highlight, because I think you have the money, I think you have the time, I think you have the people, but you're doing a level of generosity that people don't usually see. And we have to understand how you got here. But I want to first talk about, why in the world are you choosing to lead with a voice of generosity and sharing and empowering other people, when so many other folks are trying to figure out how they can get more for themselves?
Yeah. First of all, I think it was Jesus, honestly.
Yeah.
When I found Jesus, he changed my life for the better. And I believe, as you know, there's nothing worse than the grumpy, stingy Christian. I mean, that there's nothing worse, right? Because we've been given this greatest gift in the world. So I do believe it's a responsibility to, number one, have a heck of a great attitude, because we've been, we have this king that loves us. And the second thing is, I believe we are the ones that are supposed to change this world, not just do the holy huddle. Because remember, I do not come from holy backgrounds. I was a rough person, and I still am a little rough, as you know. But I like the pirate. I'm a pirate with a purpose. But I believe that's where it started, Erik. And I never really had money when I was a kid. Money does not, I don't like fancy stuff. You know that, man. I drive around in old cars.
When I went to Portland to visit you and you picked me up, I felt like you borrowed that homeless guy's car, and like, oh, he's living in this, but I'm going to go pick up my buddy Erik. Thanks for rolling out the red carpet.
About 6 months ago, I bought my son a 1986 step-side Ranger that he refused to drive. And so I was driving around in it and one of my agents goes, Nick, I know you don't care about cars, but this is friggin' ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I love? I love experiences. I love making sure that the people that I have surrounded myself with are also having those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I love just spending time and loving on my family. But I don't think it stops there. I think if the only thing I'm doing is just taking care of my own family, I think God's going to look at me a little bit and, and just say, come on, Nick, you can do better than that. So,
yeah. It's fun to hear your faith ooze out in where your calling is in this world, because you are a big voice and a big personality, and that voice and that personality not only carry, but your actions and inactions also do. And I love that your heart is for that. You and I started a few years ago something called Sell a Home, Save a Child. If somebody's not familiar with that, give us a very brief overview. And have we passed the 4 million mark, Nick?
Yeah, I think yes, we will have passed the 4 million mark effective November 1st.
My gosh. So a couple of idiots like Nick and Erik have somehow figured out how to empower other people to donate over $4 million to impact kids. But tell us briefly about Sell a Home, Save a Child, and then I want to figure out what makes you so weird.
Sure. Sell a Home, Save a Child is a nonprofit movement that helps other nonprofits raise funds. And I believe our industry is a bunch of wackies, but we're running around with our hair. We don't have any hair, but a lot of them have hair, so their hair's on fire. So we had that crazy idea that, hey, let's put together a system where someone could put a plug and play where they could start basically a movement within their real estate company, have some marketing materials to spread that. Because in today's world, I think that's another thing. Build a tribe, and I believe you thrive. People want to know, hey, is Erik, is Nick, what are they doing? They're crushing it, but what are they doing? And we came in and we built a system in order for someone to make it easy to build something where it's more than just not only for their clients, but for their agents to have a purpose behind what they do. Mm-hmm. And when things get going tough, the people that have purpose and they really understand why they're doing it, that makes you get up in the morning when you know, hey, I am tired. I've got my teeth kicked in. I missed 5 listing appointments in a row. But wait a minute. What about that kid in Nicaragua? We have homes in Nicaragua. We have homes in Haiti. We have homes in Africa. We have that incredible stuff that Unseen's doing, getting kids out of trafficking situations. That drives people to get better, to get up in the morning, and to get back after it.
Yeah. I love it, buddy. I bought my tickets today. We're going to Thailand over Christmas. And we're going to spend 2 weeks there experiencing Thailand, and seeing firsthand, what that looks and feels like. So, I'll be darned. We're bringing our kids who will be 9 and 7 at the time. That'll be an interesting show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So Nick, I love you. I'm fascinated by you. We've been on script a bit of talking about things that are easy to talk about.
Sure.
But I will say this is, there is a bunch of things that have happened for you and to you and by you in your past that have shaped this man to be as successful and impactful as you are today. And I just want to be an intentional listener to try to understand how you got to be this way. And what I really value, Nick, is vulnerability, somebody's willingness to be open and to name the pain. Tony Robbins talks about blame, and he says when we blame and we blame the things that go wrong, we also have to blame them for the things that go right as well. We have to blame gracefully and elegantly. So your blame, no matter how it is, we're going to make sure that it is both pointing at for shame and pointing at for gain. Sure. I'm done rhyming at this point.
I love it.
I want to hear your path, man.
Sure. I think if I look at like turning points in my life that have affected me, both good and bad, because I think for some points, things that happen to you can be bad. And then when you have a paradigm shift and make a choice, they can be good. Right. So I think the first thing that really changed my life is I got held back in kindergarten. Part of it is because I didn't go to school a lot.
Why? What was going on in your life that had you not go to school?
Family, like my dad is rock solid guy. Mom had some challenges mentally. So it caused issues within the family, and it was hard for my dad to keep things under rein. So I didn't go to school as much. And I remember to the day going back to go to first grade, sitting in a hallway and then telling me I couldn't go to first grade. I had to repeat. And I can still remember it to this day, like just bawling and like, because I wanted to be with my friends.
Of course.
That put me on a trajectory of a hardened, like tough. If you said anything to me, disrespected me, I was the guy I would fight in a heartbeat. And that put me with a chip on my shoulder that it took me a long time to get over that. And to this day, it still pops up, right? But I know it. I know when it's starting to pop up, because for the longest time, I didn't think that, because I had the label, I wasn't very smart. I always tease. I always go.
So You told me, and you said to our audience here, hey, there's this paradigm shift when you view things differently.
Yeah.
But my guess is that paradigm shift didn't happen early on for you, right? You just,
Mm-mm.
the broken record that you played over and over was, Nick, you're not smart enough to even pass kindergarten.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't like school. I liked sports. And that's probably what allowed me to graduate.
Well, you were a year bigger than everybody else. Of course you succeeded at sports.
Exactly. Now people do that on purpose, keep kids back like 5 years. So, through high school, I wasn't a bully, but I was that guy that you don't disrespect me because we're fighting. And I was scared a lot because I would fight a lot of the guys that were older. Like when I was going as a freshman in high school, I knew I couldn't say no to a fist fight. And
Nick, do you know that I've been in one fist fight in my life and neither of us landed a punch? I went to tackle him and he goes, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry." And so I've never really been hit before. It makes sense why my face is so pretty and yours is so grotesque.
This isn't pretty. I'm only 28, but look at this face.
So, I mean, how often were you in these fist fights, dude?
I've probably been in 100 fist fights in my life. It's been, and part of that was my identity, man. I liked it. I thought that's what being a man was, being tough. I read a book, The Season of Life by Joe Ehrman, that just changed my whole life outlook about what a real man is. But back then I thought, if I was tough, that was part of being a man, is to be able to just throw down, right?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, did your parents not push back on your violent ways?
I think my pops was just trying to hold on, right? He just wanted to see me through until I was 18. And my dad was a tough guy too, right? So, I think he kind of, the big fights that were coming up, me and him would train a little bit in the living room before the big brawls at the high school and stuff. So,
wow. Let it be known. This is so different for me because I was raised by a flock of women who never were in any sort of physical altercations. My dad wasn't around. And so if the idea of a fight came about, we just figured out, okay, how am I going to talk my way out of this? And how am I going to show empathy for the other person? And I guess both are effective.
Yep. You're a great salesman and so am I. We got different approaches.
Oh my gosh. So you're fighting all the time.
Yep.
Are you angry?
Yes.
Or are you just short fused?
I had severe depression all throughout my life, big time.
And that was because of the story you were telling yourself, or because there's clinical things that are imbalanced?
Probably both, Eric. I think there's both. My mom, her side of the family has a lot of challenges, right?
Yeah.
A lot of challenges. And the poor woman, for her life, she did the best she could with the resources that she had. But yeah, there's definitely both. I think partly my self-esteem, what I was telling myself, plus, some factors above and beyond that.
So did you like you?
No, because I was not a mean person. I love people, but I had such a wall that I couldn't be the jovial, happy guy. I was not that guy through school.
Okay. So what story, what narrative did you say to yourself? What did you believe about yourself? That you were dumb, that that you only could fight?
Yeah. Again, and again, on the other hand, I mean, sometimes when you have a chip on your shoulder, I was a really, really good athlete. No one told me I had to get good grades in order to play college sports. So I remember my junior year, I asked the assistant coach, I go, "Hey coach, where do you think I'll end up playing?" And he goes, "Dude, maybe a JC because you barely pass classes." And I was like, what a dick. And here's the unfortunate thing. My poor pops, my mom and I would, like, when I would get report cards back in the day, you'd have to copy and paste like C's when they were like D's and F's.
Yeah.
And my mom would help me do that. And my dad had no clue that I was barely passing school.
Your mom would help you lie about your grades to your dad.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there were some challenging things going on there.
Wow. Yeah. So you graduate high school.
Barely graduated. It was beautiful.
Okay. Then what?
Did not have a clue what I was going to do. Did not. Are you still fighting people all the time now?
Oh, yeah. You're 18, 19, 20 years old?
Yeah. But the good thing is, my dad, he managed mills. So when I was like a freshman in high school, I started working at these mills and I was pulling green chain and doing cleanup. And I was like, man, there's one thing I know is I do not want to do this for a living. I had no clue what I wanted to do, but I knew I wasn't going to do that. So I said, I'm going to college. First year, went to a community college because that's the only place I could get into, and had a lot of success because I worked at it, right? Before I'd never worked at any education. Second thing is, then I transferred to Oregon State. Got my parents got a divorce. Me and my girlfriend a long time broke up, and I went into a deep, dark, like probably for about a year and a half depression. When I was 21 years old, I was sitting in at this scroungy apartment that I was living in, and I had like 100 pills in my mouth, ready. It was my birthday, 21st birthday. Put them in my mouth, ready to end it all. And I didn't do it. Thank you, Jesus, for saving me that day, because that was a very dark. I was there. I was done. I was ready to. I didn't want to go on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nick, I just want to pause for a moment and thank you for trusting me and trusting this audience to name something like that, because that's a level of darkness. Unfortunately, too many people have seen.
Yes.
How'd you crawl out of that, man?
Well, again, there was a lady by the name of Christine Goodwin. I had to get out of the area that I was in, because remember, who you hang out with is a big deal. And I wasn't hanging out with good people, right?
Yeah.
I was fighting and things were starting to get a little like, hey, some of these people that you're messing with are like, they kill people, right? So I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this world. So I went to Roseburg, Oregon. It's a tiny place in Southern Oregon. And I went and I became a fitness guy, because I worked out a lot. I was strong. I was tough. I'm like, shit, hey, I'm going to go get a gym job. Now, the cool thing was I moved down there, didn't know, and I got the morning shift. And I didn't really, at the time, I didn't have a place to live. Okay, so I was living in my car. So, but then Erik, I was a smart.
You were homeless.
Guy. Yeah, a little bit homeless. Not completely, because I could drive like 45 miles and go crash on one of my cousin's manufactured home's couch. But it was a little challenging. But I was smart enough, because I was a smart guy. Didn't think it, but I was. And I got the night shift and the morning shift. So I was like, yeah, I got a pool. When I was trying to meet girls, I got a pool. I got a hot tub. I got 10,000 square feet. Oh yeah, I was living the life. But there was a guy named Lynn Herbert. Christine kind of showed me a different lifestyle, right?
Okay.
And there was a guy named Lynn Herbert that owned a mill. And he asked me one time, he goes, what in the world are you doing here? And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, man, you have some talent. What are you doing? And he gave me the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the next day.
Yeah.
And I started learning about, your mind, making decisions, success, because my dad taught me hard work. I've always been a hard worker. But he was never taught about, how to money and success. He was never taught about it. So it was all about grinder. And so that was kind of the turning point where I started. Number one, I saw a guy that was successful, gave me a compliment, and my perception started changing about, number one, myself. And then I started seeing what other people were doing, because it's important, Erik. We know who we hang out with is super, super important. And that was kind of the stone that started making changes. I started training. I started doing private training, and I started doing private training. And then my first public speaking was down there, and I was the guy that would go into the schools and teach the kids about fitness and do big assemblies. And I'm a kid. I wasn't.
How old are you at this point?
I'm probably 22.
That's
22. And I love kids. I love teaching kids. I loved having fun. And I started breaking out. The real Nick started coming out. The fun-loving, crazy, goofy guy that just loved helping people. And I started teaching. I was an aerobics instructor, a step aerobics instructor. It was the greatest.
I hope so badly that Jess, who does a lot of my editing, takes a Richard Simmons outfit and just plasters it all over you, my man.
It was good. It was good. Then I realized, I was like, okay, I need to get out of this small town. I moved back to Portland. And that's where I started working at fitness clubs in the Portland area. And then I decided that I wasn't moving to LA, and I wasn't going to get rich on doing fitness. And that's how I started my world of entrepreneurship. I started selling like fitness drinks. And then I moved from that to selling auto glass. It was, and I knew that was I was a great salesman. And so I knew how to connect with people, whether they were the executives that worked out at the club or the guy that's coming from the mill. I connected with all of them because I treated them all the same. And most people just want, someone that's going to treat them with a little bit of respect.
Yeah. Why was the focus of money so important to you at that phase of your life?
At that time, that's what I viewed success, being tough. At that time, I was tough, and money. That's what I thought. Okay. I mean, I took the world's view of what a man was supposed to be: women, money, and toughness. That is what I thought a man was.
Now what is a man?
Oh gosh, number one is someone that helps. For me, it's someone that can help somebody that needs a hand up, not a handout, a hand up. Okay. Someone that and is honest, that can show. I mean, I'm the biggest crap. My kids, I mean, when they leave for college, I just dropped my daughter off at college. Again, this is the third year I've dropped her off at college, but I'm bawling like a baby. There was 2 years ago, I remember I was supposed to be doing a podcast with you, and I texted you and said, I can't do it, man. For like 4 hours, I was bawling. You get someone that cares about it. The real important thing is cares about people, cares about his family, and cares about others, dude. That's what I think a real man is. And is strong.
Look at this maturity. When you talked about money and women and strength being tough, that was all about you.
Yep.
And now I asked you, what is a real man? And you said it's about helping others, and it's about loving generously, and it's about, right? Like, it's all about other people now. Like, that's so fun to hear. I'm curious because I have 2 questions here. You got yourself out of this funk of stinking thinking, right? My son Simon is 7, and he's an asshole. I love that kid so much, but he is just a little tyrant on some things. And he has this negative thought process that we have to try to work him out of all the time. This broken record that plays over and over that says, I'm not good enough. I can't. And Nick, you told yourself that story for a really long time. How'd you break it?
Listen, I didn't have people that had broken out of that. Okay. So I met people that I saw a different way of living. And then that person gave me a book. And if you don't have people in your life that you can learn from, and again, Erik, I've told you this, my biggest mistake in life, I never found a mentor. Why? Maybe number one, it could have been self-esteem. Didn't think I deserved one. Number two, ego, pride, maybe, where I was like, shit, I'm just going to blow through this wall myself. But if you don't have it, my mentors came from books. And I started being I never read a book in high school ever. And then I started being an avid reader. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Think and Grow Rich, man. That is what I took in. I read, and that was my mentors. And I believe you can do that as well.
Yeah. But you had to want to change, right, Nick?
Yeah, I saw when I moved to Roseburg, and this lady named Christine Goodwin, she'd invite me over to her house for dinner. I saw a different life, and I liked it. It was funny.
But so many people, Nick, sit and they see someone living a life that they want, and they resent it instead of try to duplicate it.
Well, again, I would say that the one thing that my dad because the one thing my dad did, okay, he always said, son, you can do anything you want. He always said that to me. And I remember some of it was BS. I mean, yeah, son, you can play D1 basketball. That's just not true. I can barely jump. I was a hell of an outside shooter, but I could, but he always would say that you can do anything you want. You can do it. So deep down inside, I didn't really know what the heck I was going to do, but I had a drive to do it. I was a competitive athlete. I wanted to win. Okay.
So winning was really important to you. Yeah.
Very important to me. Like, yeah, more than important. Cheat, steal, lie. I'm winning. Okay. That was my philosophy back.
Is winning still that important to you?
Winning's important. I don't get me wrong. I like to win. But the older I get, I think, again, I stay in my wheelhouse. I know what I'm good at. I'm going to stick with that. I think in life, there's, I look at guys that, maybe 7 years ago, we're on the same, and they're doing something completely bigger in the business world. And I remember when I was with my daughter, as I dropped her off, and I was thinking to myself, there is not one person that I would trade to be than ever, because I have this family that is, and I'm a challenging guy for my poor wife. My wife is a rock star. I'm challenging, right? Because I'm an emotional guy, but I wouldn't change where I'm at today for any amount of money, any power, anything. And I believe God, that's where God wanted me to be. Doesn't mean I'm not like still thinking about, okay, hey, there are some opportunities out there. Let's find them, but I wouldn't change because I know what's important to me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It was a 2-part question. The first part I said is, how did you get yourself out of that funk? And what I heard from you is the importance of reading, the importance of seeing a bigger life, and what could be possible. And you changed the way in which you won, right? Instead of winning in a different arena, you found a way to win now in the business sector and the business field.
Not quitting. Because Erik, when I was 21, I almost quit. I almost quit everything.
Yeah. Well, there's still this transformation and metamorphosis that's happened, at least from where I sit.
Yep.
Is you went from all about me to all about you, right? You went from being what a real man looked like to now being what a good man looks like.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I'm going to say that was God. That was only God. I just had my whole value system changed.
So when did you find Christ? He's not hiding, but you finally found him, right?
And he was. I look back on my life, and I know there's so many times that I was protected, and I always would, when things got really bad, I would reach out. I didn't know anything about God or anything like that. But when my wife was in a bad place when she met me. That's just, I'm joking, but I always say that because I'm like, why in the world would you have married me? You were crazy.
Everybody loves a project.
Yeah. I'm just like, and then I realized it was because she had student debt. And at that time I had a business and I'm like, I know why. But her dad is a very like from Idaho, very just a simple guy, but just this loving, jovial guy. And I remember going, you know what? I don't know about this Jesus thing, but I sure do see how he interacts with his kids. I see how the guy acts. And then we were married and we just started having kids. And Jonna said, "Hey, I am going to raise our kids in a Christian home. I would like you to participate." At that point in time, Erik, I was an avid learner. And I'm like,
yeah,
hey, it worked for your family. I'm open. So I started going there. And then I went through a course called Alpha, which was an introduction to Christianity that, God just slapped me upside the head. And that put me on a path of just a different value system and difference of what's important in my life.
And so now the lens that you view the world through is radically different than that 5-6-year-old kid who thought that he was too dumb,
right,
and that he was not good enough. What stories do you tell yourself now about you?
I think I struggle with that still. I think that is still part of Nick Shivers, where I have to be very careful because I'm like, there are times when I remember a guy said, "Hey, if there's a circle you want to be in, you need to invite yourself into that." I am not good at doing that because I'm thinking someone should invite me or something like that. I got to be real careful with that. Because that whisper that talks to you is always there. It's now majority of the times I can say, "Hey, F off, little voice, get out of here." And then I go back to jamming. But I got to be real. And I tell my son Keegan this all the time. I go, "Son, you have to, if there's a circle you want to get in, you have to get in there. No matter if they tell you, 'Hey, get out of here,' for 4 times, you have to." And I haven't done that. I haven't done that in my life. And that's probably the biggest thing that I could say is probably been my biggest setback in any business adventures that I've should have or could have been on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's the table or the room that you want to be in right now that you're not?
That's a good question. And I don't, at this point in time, my table's been so abundantly blessed this summer with my family. I need to be, the most important thing I need to be is a better husband in this next phase in my life for the next few years. I need to be a better husband. Yeah, that's what I need to be.
Yeah. Well, based on your track record of your ability to identify where you need to grow and actually grow into it, you have a pretty good track record. It's usually the hardest when it's the closest.
Yes.
And so I am cheering you on, man, as my brother from another mother, as someone who is so honored and blessed to have you in my life. I'll remind you how honored and blessed you are as well. But yes. Nonetheless, Nick, you brought me and our audience here, man, a whole bunch of truth today. And I appreciate your vulnerability and your willingness to name those things. Nobody ever likes seen in the back of a kitchen, right? I used to work in restaurants, right? And if you step into the back of a restaurant, It smells weird. It's dirty. It's gross. And finally, a beautiful plate of food comes out, and people just think, well, that's the whole process, is they just see the beautiful plate. And what you're doing right now with your business and to impact the world through your philanthropic efforts is a beautiful plate of food, but it has been a mess to create it. And I know it has.
Yeah. And it's still a mess, buddy. It's getting better.
Nick, if people want to follow you, if they want to dive in and see a little bit more about you, you told them snail mail is the best route. Messenger pigeon, perhaps.
Yeah. A pigeon, maybe a semi truck. You could just send. No, I mean, if you just go to my nickshivers.com, you can always find me there. You can find me on Facebook, old guy Facebook. You know, half the time
they're like once a month.
Marco Polo every once in a while. I'm a Marco Polo.
Wow, you're so trendy. Folks know this. It would mean a lot to Nick and a lot to me if you have a heart to give and you want your business to mean more than what it currently does, to go to sellahomesaveachild.org and find a way in which to give consistently. Nick, this is another conversation for another day, but I think most people have business plans, but I don't know if people have generosity plans. And I'd love for us to create a movement in which people are planning their generosity and working towards filling that bucket instead of just giving our leftovers if we by chance have enough.
Yeah, you do that, Erik. You do that better than anybody. I mean, your events, I mean, I might be sitting in a auditorium of 9,000 people, and you have an audience of 100 people, and that 100 people outgive tremendously more than 9,000, just because of the culture that you bring with the fun. You know, like I said, that fun, crazy, wild Christian, man, that is you, and you do it better than anybody. And I'm always, when you do that, I mean, I'm always in tears. And then I'm doing a shot right afterwards. I mean, it's a beautiful culture that you have built around you, my friend.
Well, thank you, brother. It is fun to grow and go with you. And folks, we want you to go check out Instagrams. That's where I'm going to drop a bunch of stuff. You can see clips from our show, as well as follow all the weird shenanigans. For me to be that loud, crazy Christian that Nick just talked about, I'm at realerikhatch on Instagram. That's Erik with a K, realerikhatch. Find me there, and also continue to follow our podcast, Redefine. Do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that follow button, leave us a review, tell me I'm pretty, I need to hear all that stuff, and go ahead and send this to somebody who needs to hear it today. On behalf of my brother Nick Shivers, my name's Erik Hatch. It has been a pleasure, and we will catch you guys on the